Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 16 review coming right up.
I should have brought one down. I should have brought one down.
What?
I should have brought one down.
Should have brought one what down?
A broom, because we swept the Argos.
There you go. I was waiting for the punchline there. I was about to say, Rick, this was a pretty good week for me and you. All things considered.
Were you waiting for the punchline of Ben Major saying next when Mark Leggio would kick the field goal at the Labor Day game, the last points? This one, he said it again when he kicked the game-winning field goal. Next year will be another next.
There you go. All in all, this was a pretty good week for me. I go 3-1 on my predictions here. And I get my Blue Bombers winning. But I think we're going to start by getting into the first game of the week, which was the Hamilton Tiger Cats defeating the Toronto Argonauts for the third time this season by a score of 33-31, and they bring the brooms out. Rick, go nuts. And just going to eat some bread while you're talking. So.
I mean, first quarter was kind of boring, to be honest, because it was like 3-3 after one. Each team decided to do a...
You want to talk about a boring first half when we get to our last game of the week.
So then, as soon as I can pull this up, we would start...
A lot more entertaining in the second, though. With,
the second quarter.
15-11 for the Argos.
With a punt. Then Kelly would throw an interception with Katratonis. Then, depending on who you talk to, the Toronto fans thought that the roughing the passer on Bo Levi Mitchell was not roughing the passer.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that the refs are looking at it these days is you hit the quarterback, you get a penalty. Even if it's because the way that it looked like is the player fell into Bo's legs.
Was the ball gone?
And ball was already gone.
I see.
I guess he went to go like after he threw it, type thing.
Unfortunately, I will say there are a lot of situations where the player's going to get called on roughing the passer, even if there's really nothing else he can do. So. I want to
say if it has to do
in the game against Edmonton.
No matter Ticat fan or non-Ticat fan, if it hits the legs or the head, refs are always going to call it.
Yep, even if it's not intentional. Even look at the thing that happened to Strevler. For all the things I don't like about that hit that Miles Brown throws on Caleros the week prior. The one on Strevler, completely accidental. Nothing he can really do about it. And he still received a max fine for it. So that's just kind of how the CFL, what they've set their standard at.
So then Bo throws the tree. I call Giovanni Robinson a tree because the guy is 6'8", 6'9". So he threw a touchdown to tree.
I was hoping you were gonna. I was hoping you weren't gonna say because he's just standing still and not moving. And so.
Oh no!
That's not the case.
Oh, no, basically, there was no one around him when he threw the touchdown. Then
he was the tree that falls in the forest because no one was around to hear it.
Yeah. Toronto would go on a offense for probably about 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
They would get a touchdown. Chad Kelly would run it for a touchdown. We would get the ball. We'd throw it for...
And they would hit a 2-point conversion on that, right?
No,
that was the later touchdown in the second quarter.
Yeah, that was the later one. This one, Bo threw for a 37-yard pass to Keandre. Where the heck's Keandre been all year? Who knows? Bo gets sacked, and then Constantino kicks a 58-yard punt and gets a single. From there. This one was getting down to the 12-yard line. Coxie gets a objectionable conduct. He wasn't too happy with that because at the time they were at the 4-yard line before he got that penalty.
So you mean to tell me that he was objecting to the objectionable
No, so I guess when he got tackled at the 4-yard line.
Oh no, I'm just making.
I guess he went to go say something.
It's called objectionable content, and he objected to that.
So then this is the one that you're talking about where he threw it to Pollock.
Yeah, 12-yard pass
and 14 yards, and he got the 2-point convert.
And Polk did pretty decent this week on his 2 receptions. Got 42 yards and then got that touchdown there. So, despite the fact that he didn't get a ton of the looks, he was able to make the most of it.
So this is the one that kind of hurt. So just before halftime, Bo throws another touchdown, except for this one gets called back because of a face mask.
Ooh, I think I saw this one.
On Hamilton.
Yep.
But we still got a 45-yard
and it was a face mask, to be fair. It was.
I think it's a rookie. You know, rookies make mistakes. I mean, he's been with the team for long enough, but it is what it is. Should have known
better, but it is what it is.
Going into the third quarter, punt for punt, really. This one here...
I mean, it took him, like 10 minutes before any points went up on the boards when Leader grabbed himself a 2-yard run touchdown, like making the point after.
So this one was the... this past year, they had to automatic review it because they weren't sure, I guess, that he was down by contact or not. But both threw a 45-yard to Samar Bridges because he ran, but he was actually... Oh, yeah, so he did... Okay. It's just weird of how they wrote it here. So on Litre, ran it for a touchdown. I'm just waiting for the big play here. Toronto got it. They didn't run anywhere. They sacked, punted it. Where is the big one? Oh, here it comes. Did you watch any of this game or no?
So I saw parts of it. I was at my grandparents'.
Did you see?
So we had it kind of on in the background.
Did you see the Ticat debacle in the third quarter?
What exactly are you referring to? And then I might know exactly.
Where Litre went once. Twice. 3 times.
Oh, I saw this.
Toronto went offside, so we got a fresh down on plays.
And it still didn't get it done.
But the thing is, if you actually look at it, so one of the plays was out of shotgun.
Yep.
I think another one was out of a different style of play, and 2 of them he was actually out behind the center.
I'm not gonna lie.
Had they put Butler in, I'm sure Butler would have got it.
I had a big problem with the way he was handing that ball off. Why is he like 6 yards back when he's handing the ball off in short yardage? Like seriously, he was so far behind the offensive line when he made that handoff. It was one of
he didn't make any handoffs. He ran it.
Or was he just trying to run it in? Am I thinking of a different play? Because I remember at one point in the game they were near the end zone, and they had tried to push it through just with how do you pronounce his name? Tangalova.
Yeah, it was on this.
Yeah, but I can't remember how you pronounce his name. But I remember.
I just call him Tags. Tula's brother. Yeah, it was
Tula's brother. I thought there was one of those plays where they tried to hand it off and not just have the quarterback.
Yeah, it was in one of these 5 plays.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about then. What I was saying is when he goes to make the handoff, he was way too far back, And so it was the most predictable. The second the Argonaut linebackers see that they're handing this ball off and that they're so far back, they're thinking stuff the middle, and then it's hard to get anywhere when it's so predictable. Like that handoff has to happen closer to line of scrimmage. That was my main kind of gripe with that.
But it's not even that. It's soon as you line everyone, receivers, offensive line, everything, everyone's knows you're at the 1 yard line that you're gonna run it.
Yeah, you just gotta.
Why not put like receivers out to the side and then Leach can just bomb it to someone, or have a quarterback off to the right hand side as a receiver and just bomb it to the quarterback and let him run it in for a touchdown.
I don't know. It was one of those things where it looked like with the Tiger Cats, they couldn't kind of figure it out there, so they maybe needed to try something different, but they just couldn't.
That was it for that quarter. For just a quick rundown,
and for heads up, people, that they ended up getting a field goal off that.
Yeah. Larham got a field goal on that.
And they were basically at the 1 or 2 yard line when they got that field goal.
We got a field goal on that play. Chad Kelly would get another rushing touchdown. Larham would get the extra point.
You're not going to say Harrelao?
Legio would get another field goal.
15-yarder.
The interesting one for this was...
Yep.
Oh, where was it? There was a point where it's like they were close to going for it, but instead of going for it... Oh, yeah, because there's pass interference and they tried to rush it. And the Ticats challenged the play for no pass interference. Because this is where the guy slipped. I don't know if you've seen it in the fourth quarter.
Yes, I did.
Paul went to go run catch the ball and he slipped, and everyone thought it was pass interference.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's soon as that 56 seconds, I'm like, oh my god, here we go again. This game's gonna end.
And it was funny.
This
was one of the games I really wanted because in my pick'ems, I was one of 4 people that took the Ticats. Everyone else took Toronto. And so it was like I really, really wanted the Ticats to win for this one. And it
was horrible because, like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, we're at the 54-yard line with 22 seconds left. And they're just throwing like 5-yard passes, 5-yard passes. I'm like, you guys are running out the clock. Soon as he threw it to Bridges with 12 seconds left, I'm like, oh my god. Because I'm like I'm sitting with the players' parents. So I have like Wilson's family on this side, someone else's family. I had Jamal Peters' parents 2 rows behind me. And it's just like, you see Legio on the sideline practicing his kicks. He'd practice, kick, practice. And then he goes and kicks that field goal. I'm like, oh my god. And then the first thing you send me the text of, man, Legio just kicked the biggest field goal of his lifetime.
Well, it's funny. Actually, you texted me. Because I texted you being like, wow, what a game. And you're like, Mark Legio, pretty clutch kick. And I said, you know what? I'll give him that. For all the times he didn't hit clutch kicks with us, that was a pretty clutch kick. I'll give him that. Props where props is due.
And also, I'm going to give...
I was sitting there with my grandparents, and my grandpa was just kind of like, oh, son of a bitch. Why didn't he hit it for us?
Big shout out to Samar Bridges, because he set the catch record, the new all-time record for catches for a wide receiver for a rookie in this game.
That's wild. For a franchise record, right?
Ticat franchise record. He has 25 more catches to go over 4 games to break the CFL record.
Maybe.
I mean, it's
not exactly
only
easy, but it's not out of reach.
I mean, it's average of 6.25 catches per game.
It's possible.
Bo had 362 yards, 1 touchdown. He only missed 9 passes. Bo was back to his normal self. Butler had 58 yards on 11 carries. And then Bo also ran for 19 yards on 3 carries. Bridges led the defense with 89 yards.
You mean the receiving
then you
core.
had...
You mean the receiving core, not the defense.
I did say Bridges, no?
You said Bridges, but you said he led the defense. I said receiving core.
Led the offense in yards, yes, 82 yards. Keandre Smith was 79.
Yep.
Giovanni Robinson had 49 with the lone touchdown, besides Lake Trey's rushing one. Dunbar only had 48. Butler had 44, going 6 for 6. O'Leary Orange had 33, and Tim White had 24.
And then
Mario Kendricks had 1 sack, and Cacciatonis had 1 interception. Keep in mind, we did not have Moxie, and we did not have Sales either.
So, two key guys.
Two key players.
Defense.
Yes.
For the Argonauts, Chad Kelly would go 17 for 26 for 255 passing yards. With an average of 9.8, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for him. So, run-of-the-mill game. And then not, the big turnaround that Toronto was hoping for, but run-of-the-mill average. And then
just before you continue, I just want to mention one thing. So, I don't know if you watched the beginning of this game. Chad Kelly went 0 for 5 for the beginning of this game in passes.
Oh, yeah?
He wouldn't throw the ball. And then the first 7 carries was Kadeem Carey. And then Kadeem Carey didn't rush at all for the rest of the game.
Yeah, because I was about to say, on only 7 rushes, 65 yards, which it's funny how they would stop at that point as he was doing well, an average of 9.3 per rush. But then Chad Kelly would rush it himself on 5 occasions for 19 yards. 2 of them, 2 short ones for touchdowns. For the receiving core, Daniels leads it with 4 receptions on 118 yards. And then just behind him, Coxey with 45 yards on 5 receptions. 2 receptions for Polk with 42 yards and then 1 touchdown for him. And then it would just kind of keep going down the list there. Haralahu goes 3 for 4, with his longest being a 49-yarder. However, at the end of the day, the Argonauts were not able to get it done. And Ticats would win 33-31.
One thing I will mention.
Okay.
I'm not blaming Argo fans for this at all.
Yep.
But you can tell the difference when one stadium is shared by both a football team, a CFL football team, and a soccer team. And it's played on grass.
Elaborate.
Like, they were tearing that field up left, right, and center. You had the equipment guys going out to the field with the big black thing to brush off the players' cleats.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what, though? Yeah. The players love the natural grass. So, at the end of the day...
Oh, TFC players and fans hate Argo fans tearing up their grass, but... I mean, it is what it is.
The only problem with that is that they can deal with it. And because we play real football. That's why.
And also, with the win, we move 2 wins behind Toronto for a third playoff spot.
Dun. And with that will bring us on to the next game of the week, where the Saskatchewan Roughriders finally end the winless streak. 7 consecutive games, no wins. The Riders looking to finally finish it with a game against Calgary. And they do get it done. 37-29 victory over the Stampeders. And they very much needed that. Saskatchewan being able to play a pretty consistent game, putting up those points from start to finish. And, overall, not much you can complain about. And I will say, if you're a Riders fan, you're thinking about how, okay, so AJ Ouellette, he's going to move on to future endeavors, right? Because Armstead's the man. Armstead, 25 rushes, 207 yards rushing. This is one hell of a running game. And I will say, Trevor Harris, 16 for 18, 248 passing yards. That, not going to lie, that's very good. We're talking about a guy with an 89% completion percentage this game. An average of 13.8 yards on average. 1 touchdown. Very good game for Trevor Harris, even in the limited role. He would have 3 rushes for 17 yards, one of them grabbing a touchdown. And then there would also be 2 touchdowns in short yardage for Shea Patterson. So good job there by the backup QB, short yardage quarterback. For the receiving core for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Johnson would lead it with 6 receptions, 90 yards. Right behind him, Kean Schaefer-Baker with 5 receptions, 80 yards on that, and he got himself a touchdown. And then Duncan Busby behind him, followed by Emilus, Bain Jr., and Ajo. Brett Lothar going 3 for 3 with his longest at a 40 yards. Looking onto the Stampeder side of things, Jake Mayer with a 25 for 31 completion attempt average, and then 197 passing yards, very much noticeably low for Jake Mayer. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, so not too bad in that aspect. Dedrick Mills, 10 rushes, 74 yards. Yeah?
I was going to... Oh, go ahead and say the Dedrick Mills thing, then I was going to say something after that.
Dedrick Mills, 10 rushes, 74 yards, 1 touchdown for him, and then also 1
Look at
rushing
Tommy
touchdown
Stevens.
For Tommy Stevens. 1 rush, 69 yards, and a touchdown for him. So,
I'm curious. I got to go find that.
Why?
Because I'm curious if that was like a short yard.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I want to go find out, if that was a...
Although here is where I think noticeably the Stampeders kind of drop off a little bit. Receiving. And the reason I say that is that Markin Mitchell leads the receiving core. 6 receptions, 48 yards, no touchdowns. Now, there would be a touchdown for Jalen Philpott, as well as Clark Barnes would grab himself a touchdown for the receiving core. But when your top receiver doesn't even grab 50 yards, that's a little concerning. Reggie Begelton on 4 receptions only got 43. Jalen Philpott only 47. Barnes 24. Cam Eccles only grabbed 16. That receiving core, I expect more out of. I expect more yardage out of him, and that goes for Jake Mayer as well. It's a conjoined effort in that regard.
I was just gonna say, I think it's time to move on from Jake Mayer and let.
Oh yeah, no, it totally is. Especially since if you're the Calgary Stampeders, you got to think that come off season, there are some quarterbacks on the market. As Jake Mayer, I think his time is most likely up. Edmonton's probably not going to be able to hold on to both Trey Ford and Bethel Thompson, so snagging one or the other would be nice. And then there's also the big thing of BC with Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams Jr. It looks like Vernon Adams Jr. is going to be the odd man out in that situation. Despite that, I think he's actually performed better than Rourke. I think BC's really banking on Rourke being that future. So whoever one of those is available, I think if you're the Calgary Stampeders, you look for him. And so
to answer that question,
yep.
So the play actually was 2nd and 1 on the Calgary 41-yard line.
Oh my gosh. That is something. Then Rene Paredes, 1 for 1 with the longest of 41 yards. Overall, though, Saskatchewan plays a really good, consistent game. 28 points in the first half. And then they're able to grab themselves a touchdown and then 2 field goals in the fourth quarter. Touchdown in the third quarter and then 2 field goals in the fourth. And even with Calgary being able to kind of give a bit of pushback, giving up 2 touchdowns and then being able to get no points in the second quarter really hurts the Stampeders here. And it's something that they're not able to recover from. They lose by 8 points, just a 1-score game. But that is all that Saskatchewan needed to finally get themselves back in the win column and try to hold on to a playoff spot. as teams like Calgary, Edmonton, and the Ticats now are looking for that third spot out west. Shall we get to the third game of the week, Rick?
So, just before we go into the third game,
Okay.
just looking at things. So, because Montreal beat Ottawa, Montreal's clinched a home playoff date. But because there's 4 games left, Montreal just needs 1 win or Ottawa to lose to Saskatchewan, and they clinch the division.
Nice. Shall we get on to the next one?
We shall.
The next one is the Alouettes defeating the Red Blacks by a score of 24-12 as the Alouettes extend their lead at first place in the East, and the Red Blacks stay very much in second and do not close the gap on the Alouettes.
Do you know what I smell?
What do you smell?
I smell a quarterback controversy in Ottawa.
Ooh. Between Mr. Jeremiah Mazzoli and Drew Brown.
Because Drew Brown
got benched.
Drew Brown did get benched. Drew Brown went 8 for 16, 69 yards, 2 interceptions.
50%, yeah. 2 picks, not good.
And then Jeremiah Mazzoli comes in and makes it look like it's nothing.
To be fair.
And he goes 17 for 26,
to be fair,
218 yards.
First year as a starting quarterback. These are going to happen occasionally. And so I think Drew Brown will, he might have a little bit of time off. But
I mean,
he's never at really a situation of him being in a 1A, 1B. Whenever he was in Winnipeg, Caleros was very much the number one, and Drew Brown was only in if necessary. I think Drew Brown, even though he's made some mistakes and whatnot, I think he'll still get some time as a starter. Just not maybe.
But you have to remember, this is the second straight game he's been pulled.
That's a good point.
Because he is pulled against us. Mazzoli came in and got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Who's the leading rusher here for the Red Blacks? Because I think my thing might be missing with someone.
In the Montreal...
In this game.
Oh, it's Laybourne, 13 carries, 71 yards.
Yeah, I knew it was missing something because I got Justin Hardy for 8 yards, and I'm thinking, he wasn't... That's not what I remember.
Lines. Justin Hardy did have 9 for 11 for 117 receiving yards and 1 touchdown.
I know. I was just looking at rushing yards. You know what I mean? So.
Rhymes is doing horrible, too. He went 4 for 10.
Yeah, Rhymes is... It is kind of funny how different his time in Ottawa has been compared to his time in BC.
I mean, that's the difference when you have a quarterback like Vernon Adams and then a quarterback like Drew Brown.
I don't think it's just quarterbacks. I also just... I there's got to be more to that. You know what I mean? I don't know if maybe he just had some really good coaching, really good direction.
Tommy Kendall playbook.
I was about to say... Anytime Rick gets a chance to throw a stray bullet over at Tommy Kendall.
I mean, even Ackland went 5 for 8. Andre Miller went 2 for 4.
Yeah.
Laybourne even went 2 for 5 in receiving.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Ottawa's defense would have three sacks.
Yeah.
1 forced fumble. Lewis Ward would go 2 for 2, longest 44. Nothing really stands out for their return, except for Stove left the game with an injury.
Yeah, and then when it comes to the receiving core for the Alouettes, I think we both made predictions on who was going to be the standout. I guessed Reggie White Jr., you guessed Cole Speaker. And a grand total of neither of us were right. As Charleston Rambo 4 receptions on 8 targets, 77 yards. No touchdowns receiving for any of the Alouettes players. However, Cody Fajardo would have 1 rushing, and he would grab that. And then I'm just looking through here. Why is
Walter Fletcher, if you combine his rushing and his receiving, he's second with all-purpose yards behind Rambo. And don't forget...
Are you talking on the Alouettes?
Yeah, and don't forget, Philpott is now done for the season.
Yeah.
So...
And that's a big thing, because they still have Austin Mack on the 6-game injury list.
Oh, I'm sure Austin Mack will be back before the playoffs.
Yeah, but Philpott won't. You know what I mean?
No.
Because season-ending injury is including playoffs, is it not?
Yes, I think so.
That's my assumption, because I think Big Hill
Even
for playoffs too.
Look at Beverett, 7 defensive tackles, 7 tackles for loss. So each one of his tackles was tackles for
Very
loss
good.
yardage. Maltos went 3 for 3. His longest was 30 yards.
Yep.
Letcher did well on punt returns, 7 punt returns for 137 yards. But other than that, I think, Carter, it's that time, my friend, that we take a look at
The Bombers!
the CFL Central, brought to you by
Canadian Football
Ford,
Canadian
the battle
Football
of the
Central.
Ford brothers.
Canadian Football Central. My God, Rick, you're out of date. Oh, my goodness. It's been months, my guy. Get with the program. However, you know who also needs to get with the program? It's it's the Edmonton
by the
Elks.
way,
As the Edmonton Elks, turnovers.
That touchdown that Ford threw, was it not his brother Tyrell that fell on the ground?
Yes and no. So, here's the thing. Does Terrell Ford fall on the ground? Yes, he does. But that was not his guy. That was Brandon Alexander's guy. Brandon Alexander gets beat, but because what's-his-name goes, who beats him, goes to juke and go the other way, it gives time for Terrell Ford to come back, and then he gets beat. So, it wasn't Terrell Ford's guy. So I don't really put this as much on him as Brandon Alexander should have been in front of that. He should have got his hand in there, as that there was like 4 business days for him to do that.
So depending on how you look at it, Trey Ford gets bragging rights because he scored a touchdown on his brother.
Hardly, because if you watch the entire game, he threw one pass in his brother's direction. One pass.
Hold on, let me get to it. So Trey Ford gets the bragging rights for scoring that touchdown, but then Tyrell gets the bragging rights for winning.
You don't get bragging rights when you lose. I'm sorry. There's no such thing as bragging rights when you lose. That's like, I don't know. That's like bragging rights. Like, what is there to? It's like, I got this thing on you, and it's like, okay, and I got this W on you. You know, so that I guess that's and like maybe, but. I don't know. At the end of the day, whenever someone does a chirp like that, you give this, look at the score clock. What does the score clock say? Does it say that you got your ass kicked? Oh, yes, it did. I forgot about that. And so...
No, you don't need to remind me about the other night.
Oh, yeah.
Scraps in the parking lots between fans? Yes.
Jeez, but overall, Winnipeg, solid game, but problems with it. Zach Collaros, 19 for 27, 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's fine. I would have preferred a bit more. I would have preferred another passing touchdown. I would have preferred 1 less interception. Would have preferred more than 191 yards passing. However, Brady Oliveira 18 rushes, 127 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns for Brady Oliveira, the puppy saver himself.
It's funny because you look at it, it was battle of the running backs because Rankin had 159 yards.
Now, and I was going to get to that because that is the problem with this game. Where was the rushing defense for Winnipeg? Where are they? I haven't found them. Have you? Yeah, exactly. I had to come out there like Christian before every match and just go like this and look around, and try to find him. That stupid thing that he does in the entrance. Like, you don't remember Christian, right?
Yes.
Like edging Christian, and he would come out on
what I would like to know
before every map, and it was.
What I'd like to know is where the heck was your veteran receiving core?
Well,
Lawler only had 2 for 6. Dembski had 3 for 4. Lucky Whitehead went 1 for 1. You guys were led by rookies.
Well, to be fair, Ontario
Lawler
Wilson,
dropped
4. What?
Lawler dropped 4.
Yeah, that's one reason. To be fair, Wheatfall, he's kind of now that he's just kind of coming back into the lineup. I think you don't get him back in the lineup and don't use him. Try to get some usage out of him because primarily the Elks are going to be watching film on all the other receivers and not Wheatfall. So take advantage of that. Number 2. Ontario Wilson, despite being a rookie, has kind of really made his mark on this receiving core, and he's going to be a guy that's going to stick around, and the Bombers are going to want to keep him around. So utilize him. But I mean, the passing game as a whole has to get going. Whether it's rookies, whether it's veterans, you just kind of expect a bit more in terms of pressure, which is why they're running the ball so much. The one thing I'm actually surprised about was that there wasn't more passes to Oliveira. The amount of times where Zach doesn't find exactly what he was looking for, and he just throws a real short hitch pass to Oliveira, and then Oliveira punches it another 5-7 yards upfield. I was just surprised they didn't do that, maybe just trying to switch it up as they knew Edmonton would kind of anticipate that. On the Elk side of things, Trey Forward to go 10 for 17, 131 yards on average, 7.7 yards on average, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and then Bethel Thompson would go 5 for 10, 48 passing yards, 4.8 yards on average, no touchdowns, no interceptions for him. Rankin with 14 rushes, 157 rushing yards, an average of 11.2, an incredible game for him. And it's one of those things where if you're Kevin Brown, I think you're shitting yourself as Javon Leake and Rankin seem like 2 very capable guys, and Kevin Brown's days may very well be numbered in Edmonton. And then I will say, though, passing game really couldn't get going that much for Edmonton despite having an extremely talented receiving core. Eugene Lewis led the team with 2 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. So has a touchdown to his name, but still not even 50 yards for your for your number 1 receiver that game. Not really what you're looking for. But Mitchell was able to get a few, as well as Cobb and Gittins Jr., but none of them were really able to get a ton to make a big mark. Boris Beatty goes 2 for 2 for longest at 45 yards. And then Sergio Castillo goes 2 for 4. 2 things to keep in mind. The 2 kicks that he missed were a 53-yarder and a 55-yarder, so very, very far kicks. Even though we've kind of gotten accustomed to a guy like Castillo hitting those kicks, there was quite a bit of wind at this game as... and for anyone wondering if that's true, the Elks chose to actually not receive in the third quarter. They deferred, and they chose to actually allow the Bombers to receive it, so that way they would be going with the wind in the fourth quarter because the wind was that extreme to a point where it really was a factor. So I wouldn't get really too worried about Castillo as much as I wish that he had hit those. When a game has a lot of wind, naturally kickers are going to have their issues, so I'm not too worried about it. Sheehan, I thought, had a pretty solid game punting. I thought his punts were pretty well placed. And if we want to talk about a guy who had a game, Tony Jones defensively with 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. And I believe he got a fumble recovery as well. I can't remember, but I know he forced one of them out.
Let me see.
Tony Jones, though.
No, he only had 1 forced fumble.
But I thought he recovered that a fumble.
Nichols recovered 1.
No,
and Haba recovered the other one.
That's who it was. Okay. But overall, I mean, it was one of those things where when I was watching this game, it felt like I saw that name popping up constantly. And if I see one of our defensive players' names popping up constantly, that is a very good sign. I mean, in my notes for that game, Tony Jones is written 3 to 4 times for stuff that he had done. Which is why I had labeled the episode that I posted up on the Nolan Hockey Podcast. I called it Chef Jones, and then I took the Tony Roma's restaurant, and I took the Roma's off, and I just put Jones. It's Tony Jones. In his restaurant.
You know what, though?
And by the way, the plate in the corner is actual elk meat, so just letting you know. So, fun fact.
If you actually look at, like, the stat sheet, like, yeah, I get you guys, they had, 7, 8 turnovers. But, I mean, if you look at it, only 2 interceptions, only 2 fumble recoveries, and I think 2 of them.
I will say one of those interceptions, it goes off a helmet and bounces right up. And so you can't put both of those on Trey Ford. I think one of them you can, but the other one, nah. But the pick that Ayers got, I think that one's probably one that Trey Ford would want back. But the one that Jones got, where it bounces off a helmet and then he dives and barely gets under it, it is what it is. So, but overall,
it's gonna be
one of those things. The Elks, even though it's very difficult for the Elks to win when you get shut out for half the game. Now, to be fair, they held the Bombers to only 3 points in that same half. So Winnipeg didn't really get much of anything, but Winnipeg was leaving so many points on the table, and then Edmonton was leaving so many points on the table by turning that ball over. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to overcome that. Winnipeg 17 points in the fourth quarter, and it will be enough for them to get the win. Both teams were tied going into the fourth. 4 points for Edmonton as they grab themselves a field goal and a single. And then the Bombers with 2 touchdowns. Brady Oliveira on a 6-yard run and a 5-yard run. And then Sergio Castillo with a 23-yard field goal. Bombers were being a bit more aggressive for points. Even after it was clear that they had won the game, they still went for it on 3rd down. 3rd and 4, they had went for it to try to get the first down. They do. And this is because the Bombers and the Elks only played twice this year. So in the event that Edmonton is able to win in Winnipeg, the tiebreaker will come down to point differential. And so not only was Winnipeg trying to win this game, they're trying to win this game by as much as they could. So Winnipeg with a win, and they win by 13 points. So that way, even in the event that next week they quite possibly lose that game, I think they're hoping that they can lose that game by less than 13 to ensure they have the season series. But ideally, they just want to win it. So, but some smart play calling by O'Shea to just kind of plan for the future and do what you can in that regard. But overall, Bombers first in the West now with a 8-6 record, which now puts them a full 2 points ahead of BC, which is good, as BC, reminder, needs to they can't tie Winnipeg. They have to beat Winnipeg if they want to be above them in the standings. Winnipeg leading the West with an 8-6 record, 16 points. Shortly behind him, BC with a 7-7 record with 14 points. And then Saskatchewan at 6-7-1 with 13 points. Then the Elks 5-9 with 10 points. And then the Stampeders 4-9-1 with 9 points. And then another noteworthy team to mention is the Ticats over in the East with 5 wins, 9 losses, and 10 points, as they are looking for a possible crossover if they are not able to get above the Argonauts.
So the interesting thing is with the next, we're going into 17, so next 4 weeks.
Yep.
I want to say if you include us and Toronto. I think Toronto has the harder schedule than we do.
Yeah, because you guys play BC. They
We
play
played-
Alouettes.
Yeah,
you guys
then we
play us.
And they're on a bye week. Then they play you guys, and we're on a bye week. Then they play Ottawa. We play Calgary. Then they play Edmonton in Edmonton, and we play Ottawa.
I'd say that's a pretty evenly matched schedule.
And
I would
keep in
not
mind-
say the Argos have a tougher schedule.
Hold on,
I would say both have an equally difficult schedule.
Keep in mind, the last game of the season in Ottawa may mean nothing to Ottawa, and they may be dressing, not starting their starters.
It depends, but it also. Oh, but that won't mean nothing to Edmonton though.
No, but I mean,
the reason why I'm saying that is because the Argos play the Elks. The Elks, they won't have that same luxury against the Elks though.
and let's be honest. What's his name? Nathan Rourke starting this week. He hasn't been the greatest. BC's offensive line hasn't been the greatest. So, it
is a winnable game. It's not an easy win.
It is a winnable game.
It is a winnable game. And I would say that for most games for most teams. So we're gonna have to see how these coming weeks go and how the
next week's gonna be the big week.
You guys are gonna have to check out our Week 17 preview, which tomorrow night, which will be, I guess, tonight when you're watching this video, we'll be recording it in the Monday night. We're recording this at it's 1 a.m. for me. It's 2 a.m. for Rick.
Nothing stops us from recording
on the Sunday. I guess technically the Monday. I don't call it the Monday yet. I haven't gone to bed, so it doesn't count. And so that way, hopefully in the morning, we can get this to all you wonderful people. Or in the afternoon. It really depends on if I'm busy at work or not or whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Rick, is there anything else that we're missing?
It's making it very interesting, but
nothing that I'm missing.
Nothing that I'm missing.
All right, well, peace, love, and positivity to all you wonderful people at home. I know Rick loves it when I say that, and we will see you guys next time.
Bo 300.